Hey, welcome everybody to the Weather Nerds YouTube channel. I'm Greg Majeski, your personal weatherman here, doing a live update. A little late, had some technical issues. I did work it out. Yay for me. I love when YouTube throws me a curveball and then my chat ninja was messing up, but we got it all fixed. We're ready to go. And I want to break this down for you guys here for today of what to expect with a very spring-like system. Very unusual to see a system like this, especially with the tornado threat that we're going to have here going into late today and into tonight. Unfortunately, I hate those nighttime storms, but that is what we're going to be probably looking like here for today. Now, before I get into this, if you're just kind of checking in on the broadcast here, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you would. Be a pleasure to have you on board with the Weather Nerds family. And yeah, we're going to do some wall-to-wall coverage here later today. But I want to go ahead and give you guys a full update here on what we're expecting. And this is the latest from the Storms Prediction Center. So as you can see, we've got an enhanced area. This is what I was anticipating here. I've been kind of watching this for about a week. I kind of figured we were going to get something here. And obviously, we're talking about the eastern Kansas, parts of northern Oklahoma, and kind of getting into parts of Missouri. That's going to be our target zone here for today for this active severe weather that's going to be developed. It's going to be initial storms that are going to form in Nebraska, northern Kansas, and we're going to get a bit of a squall line. And we'll break that down and look at the model data here on that in just a second. So let's go and look at the different categories, okay? Now, the first category we're going to look at right now is your tornado threat. That's that area there in yellow. So we're talking about a 10 to 14% chance of seeing some isolated tornadoes. And with the jet energy that I'm seeing, I wouldn't be surprised to see some stronger ones there. Couldn't rule out a few that go above EF3 or in the EF3 zone area for today. That is for sure. And perhaps some longer track tornadoes not out of the question as well. So that's something I'll be watching very closely, especially as the line begins to develop late this afternoon and into tonight. Now, here is your wind forecast. Again, a high probability of wind damage here. We're talking winds greater than 60 miles per hour here, between 30 and 44% chance in that same target zone, obviously where the tornado threat's going to be the highest. And then the hail threat, it's not too bad, 15 to 29%. That's that yellow zone there from Nebraska stretching down into Oklahoma. So those are our target zones. And some of this squall line will get down to northern Texas as well. But again, our predominant target zone for coverage today is going to be that area there where that enhanced risk for severe weather is anticipated for today. Again, a very spring-like type system. Now, up and down this entire cold front, there is going to be flash flooding risk. Now, this part of the country has seen drought conditions. I think will be okay, but there could be some localized flash flooding potentially here as the storm system begins to propagate out into the plain states. So basically, you're looking here from Wisconsin all the way down into Texas, that zone in there. That's what you're looking like for your potential for some isolated flooding potential there. Now, again, I want to highlight again how unusual this setup is here for today. This is very unusual. This is the climate tornado outlook. When you look historically back to October 30th, traditionally you're talking about tornadoes down here along the Gulf Coast. This is where we typically see stuff to form, and we're getting it up in this zone, which, if you guys recall, looking back actually toward the spring, we had several events in that same neighborhood there going into earlier in the year. So a little unusual to see this kind of severe weather that we're getting here in toward the middle of the country. Now let's go ahead and break this down. I want to show you guys why we're seeing this. So we're going to first start off by looking at the water vapor imagery. That kind of measures the water vapor in the mid-levels of the atmosphere. And you can kind of get a good see of how the flow is here overall. You've got a very pronounced trough sitting in here. So a very strong trough. We've got some very cold air kind of coming in here behind this system. On top of that, out ahead of it, we've got some very, very warm air surging out ahead of this. So temperatures are very warm out ahead of this. So when you got a 34 degree temperature swing, that is definitely very conducive for, something is going to get fired up and something's going to be going on. Here's the kind of my initial target zone initially. I think what we're going to see here initially is some activity kind of forming up in this area, and then we'll see some sort of squall line that's going to kind of form in out as the low begins to propagate out into Nebraska. That's when we're going to kind of see things get fired off here with the thunderstorm. So it's going to be some sort of squall line, and then we'll have to watch and see if we get any individual supercell activity to form out ahead of that line as this begins to pull on out into the plain. So again, this is showing you the regional current surface map. I mean, look at these temperatures, guys. Again, I can't reiterate this again. You got, this is late October, and you got temperatures in here in the low 70s. This is like summertime weather when you got morning lows in the 70s, but you got temperatures behind us in the 30s and in the 40s. So it is very, very cold behind that system. And that's why it looks like target's going to be definitely Kansas here for today predominantly as we go into late this afternoon and going into the overnight hours. So again, I've noticed, I was watching the spotter network, and I definitely was noticing a lot of the spotters and their chasers are kind of getting lined up in here. Obviously, the big cluster around Kansas City because that's one of the target zones here for some of the severe weather. But these guys are getting into position, and we'll obviously be watching Radar Omega here for our live coverage this afternoon. We'll be watching the storm chasers as well to see what they show as far as this line begins to develop. Now, looking at Radar Omega currently, what the precipitation we're getting out there in western Kansas is pretty light right now for the most part. So not a big deal here to begin the morning, but that will change again heading into late this afternoon. Now, here are my target zones. I do have a few cameras that I'm going to be looking at here as we go through the day. Obviously, Kansas City starting their morning out pretty quiet here for right now, but Kansas City is one of my target zones here for today. Also going to be keeping a watchful eye on Wichita, Kansas. That is going to be another target zone here for today. And then my last camera going down toward Oklahoma, we'll be looking at Tulsa. This will probably be late tonight when this comes in. One thing I noticed with these cameras, especially the Tulsa camera, how windy it was. Very, very windy out ahead of the system. Usually when you see the wind energy, you know you got a pretty dynamic system there as well because of the pressure gradients that are going on there. So looking at the latest watch and warnings, obviously right now we do not have any tornado watches out yet. That'll come later this afternoon. But one thing I want you to point out here is obviously we've got a numerous looking numbers of winter weather advisories and stuff out there right now, obviously. And then when you look down in here, you see all this this purple. That is your freeze warnings out there. So it gets you an idea of just how cold that air mass is, bumping into that very warm air mass out ahead of that exiting storm system. Now, I'll be watching, obviously, the power outages for today as well, just kind of watching to see how they change, and I'll fix that map a little bit later because it just updated, so I'll get that fixed. But the big thing here for today is the model. So I want to go ahead and show you guys the latest model data here from the high-resolution model. So I want to go into the models. We're going to break down the time frame here so you get an idea of what's going on. So the one component that I'm seeing with the system is we've got what's known as CAPE. That is basically gasoline for storms, okay? So the fact that I'm seeing CAPE in here that's surging up out of the Gulf of Mexico with that warm air, and that's moisture, that is fuel for these storms that we're going to see firing up here for later this afternoon. So let's go through the CAPE first. Let me clear this out for you real quick. And watch that timestamp in that upper right-hand corner as we go ahead and progress here. This is starting 8 o'clock this morning. So we're going to progress on through. Notice how these capes, as we warm up here for this afternoon, really start to come up here across portions of eastern central Kansas. We're talking, getting upwards over 1,000 to 1,500, which is pretty healthy to feed storms for this time of year. I know sometimes in spring you can get 3,000, 4,000, but that's a pretty good healthy cape that we're seeing right there here for this system. So again, let's go ahead and track this through. We'll go ahead and move this on through. Again, watch that timestamp here as we'll see he gets close to 2,000 there across portions of northern Kansas as that front progresses through. And then starts, as obviously we lose that daytime heating, we start losing that a little bit as that pushes off. So we're definitely going to have CAPE to feed those thunderstorms late this afternoon into the early evening hours. All right, that's parameter number one. The other parameter I'm looking at here is the significant tornado parameter. What this looks at, it looks at available CAPE as well as wind shear and helicity. What kind of spin do we have in the atmosphere here? So we're definitely seeing that. Again, watch that timestamp here, and you're going to notice it definitely coming up here as we go toward late this afternoon. So I see a lot of 2s and 3s. It really picks up around 23. It's around 7 o'clock tonight. Again, going toward darkness there. And it really starts to spike there as we head toward the 8 o'clock hour. So as we get to 8 o'clock tonight, this zone right here will need to be watched closely. We'll obviously have some sort of tornado watch up at that time as this thing begins to develop and move off toward the east. The good news is that the system will be much weaker tomorrow, and I'm not anticipating another round here for tomorrow. So this moves on. It moves into down to the south. Oklahoma and Texas become the target zone here as we head toward the early morning hours, and then it kind of fizzles on out. So that is your significant tornado parameter. All right, let's finally take a look here at the radar reflectivity, kind of anticipated how it's going to look and how it's going to develop. So we're pretty quiet here for this morning. We're going to see might see a little bit of activity here start to form in this zone. We can watch and see how that works out here for this morning. But it's really going to be the late afternoon and into tonight when things start to get going. So 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, not looking bad. Then we start seeing things start to fire there across Nebraska. That's why I had that satellite imagery kind of targeting on that zone as this low pressure system is going to be exiting up that way. So I know it looks kind of crappy, but anyway, so that's what we're going to see there with that. So watch what happens as this thing gets fired up here. Again, 21 heading up till 6 o'clock. You really start getting that squall line starting to form there across portions of Kansas going right through here. So there's our squall line, and it's just going to get even more robust as we go through the early evening hours. So there it booms. It really gets forming. So Kansas City is under the gun as we head toward 9 o'clock. Should be going through Wichita by that form, getting into northern portions of Oklahoma here for tonight, and then really gets fired up here for the overnight hours. It's very, very dangerous. So anyways, in that part of the country, if you got any friends or family or anybody in that part of the country, if you're watching from that part of the country, obviously just make sure you either have your good weather app on here for tonight, or you got a NOAA weather radio to have those alerts go off, because, you know, in the middle of the night, that's when it can be the most dangerous, okay? So up to about midnight. Then once we get past midnight, we lose the dynamics. I think everything begins to shift here further to the south. So we'll be watching the areas there to the south down in this zone for potential tornadoes and stuff, as well as the storm system begins to progress off toward the east, and we'll see that thing die off. We'll see some thunderstorms and some rain, getting some very healthy area there. Good rains there across portions of Minnesota and in through areas of Wisconsin. But then that runs into a big area of high pressure off the southeastern coast and the southeast. Not going to get all that much, especially over toward Georgia, parts of Alabama and Florida that kind of need a little bit of rain there, but it's been kind of dry. So that is our setup, guys, here for today. Again, we'll go back and recap this once again here for you for today. We are expecting a spring-like severe weather outbreak here for later today. Again, really kind of late afternoon after 4 going into about midnight. It's about that 8-hour window. May get some early activity form around 2 and 4, but after 4 o'clock, things really start getting hot and heavy with this developing squall line. And I'm going to be watching this very closely here for later this afternoon. So if you're new to the channel and you come by and got this update after the live update here this morning, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button there. Hit that notification bell so you're alerted, and it will be a pleasure to be one of your weather sources. God knows there's so many of us out there in the YouTube universe, and I'd like to be one of your considered sources to watch the severe weather. I try to keep an even keel on this and not go too crazy, and just want to give you guys critical weather information. It's my passion. It's what I love to do. All right, go ahead and take a look at some of these questions here. I see I got a few folks here watching. Regulars here. Our Irish Queen is back. Hey, good to see you there. I would say Michael's in the house. Hey, Michael, good to see you. Definitely. I don't see anything in the Gulf to be good. Yeah. Oh, as far as the tropics are concerned, just to lay my 2 cents on that. Still waiting to see that. Man, I've seen such monster clusters there, and it's getting later and later, and I think wind shear becomes a problem for anything trying to get in the Gulf of Mexico. So I'm not overly concerned about anything tropical right now. If we get anything to form, you know, maybe we get a tropical storm or something like that. But right now, I don't see anything happening in the tropics till early next week. So I'll just kind of throw that out there for you right now. All right, now that's your update here for now. Again, look for my live broadcast. I haven't decided yet whether I'm going to do it at 2 o'clock or 4 o'clock. We'll see. We'll check on that. And we'll start our live coverage here, and then we'll go into tonight, and we'll see how things develop with the storm system. Looks like it's going to be a pretty active late afternoon, especially into the evening hours in here for tonight. All right, that's y'all's update. You guys take it easy. Be good, stay safe, and we'll see you a little bit later.